Welcome to the Stroke Experience podcast. My name is Marty Martin, and I'm a stroke survivor. Welcome to episode 3 of the Stroke Experience. I'm Marty Martin, and this is episode 3 about the first week of the rehab hospital. So just to recap, I talked about the ICU and about how you had a lot of adjustments going on that first week because you're restricted to your bed. You're paralyzed on one side, so you can't move, can't get out on your own, and you need help with things like the bathroom and adjustments like that. Being some of my things that going on with me were dehydration and of course the paralysis, awareness of the call button in case you need help, your personal perspective of how bad things are, and I emphasize about having a positive attitude. And yes, you've had a stroke, but you know it's kind of maybe a bad way to say, but things could be worse. But you gotta stay positive and look ahead. But so sorry, some things like speech, those like you may notice sometimes, and I always apologize for this about I may have slurred speech or I may ramble a lot too, so it just depends. Vision problems. Doctors right away were always asking if my vision was okay. And again, I mentioned that before about I didn't think so, but then when I was in the rehab hospital coming up here, I did notice it. Then there's things like chewing problems, having pillows under your arms and legs, so your arms don't fall out of bed and things like that. So crossed wires, emotions, all these are things that are going on in that first week. And so which brings us to the rehab hospital. So they wanted me over there Sunday night, and they couldn't get me over there because of that thing I humorously talk about, the bowel movement. But anyway, because of meds and everything like that, different diet, and I wasn't eating that much, but the meds, they do things to our bodies. So anyway, by Monday night I got over there. So I got over there. The first thing, they got me up to room 237, Mercy Rehab Hospital in Chesterfield, Missouri. And once we were there, we they got me into my bed and one first, and they just slid me over from the ambulance ride. Yeah, I had an ambulance ride to get over there. So got me in bed, gave me a little schedule for the next day. I said, "Oh, okay." It gave me a thing for my menu for the next day. They let you pick what you want, and it's a restricted, but not so restricted. There was lots of options on the menus for the meals. So anyway, next morning comes around, got me up at 5:30. The medical tech. So usually on a shift there, they have a nurse and what they call medical techs. So they may call them something different at different hospitals, but that's what the terms was, the med tech. But the med tech came in, got me up, got me dressed. Um, and then a little while later, Dr. Thorley came in, the physical rehab doctor. He came in, introduced himself, told me what is going on, what the stages of the rehab were going to be. Um, he gave me an analogy that I really liked about, when is, what's going on, the stroke. I mean, he explained what stroke is. We know what the stroke is. He asked questions about things going on with me, as far as the lifestyle, as far as, I was diabetic. I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I was overweight. When this happened, I was 270 pounds, which puts me anywhere from 70 to 90 pounds overweight, maybe more depending on what scale you're looking at. But so we went over that. Then he went on to explain what the stroke was in a different analogy sort of things. Now, my room there at the hospital had a nice big window overlooking Interstate 64. And he said, hey, so his analogy was, he said, look out there at the highway. Just imagine for a minute a bomb just blew up out there, blew up the highway. Okay, well, that's what happened to your head. You had a bomb blow up in your head. And so now imagine out there on the highway, all these construction crews coming in doing the repair work. And that's kind of what's going on in your body and in your head. You know, um, you got construction crews in there doing their work, constantly working. because you got the nervous system, everything going on, not just healing where the stroke happened at, where you had the brain bleed, but also everything, the nerves, everything. So there's a lot going on. And as far as a timeline on recovery, he was honest. He said everybody's different. Some people are up and walking within a few weeks, but that's very rare, very, very rare. But then others, it takes a few months, 6 months, a year, or longer. No definite timeline. You just have to, you just work on it and see where you end up at. And so that was, a short explanation on what the stroke did to our bodies. They had this little bomb blow up, and so it's got to fix itself. And the body does miraculous things, working on itself, fixing itself. So that was that. He came and left. That came and got me in, oh yeah, the nurse and medtech came in, did some more stuff, did vitals, so they'll check me a lot for the blood sugar and everything before you go to meals, see where you at. So I was on a bunch of meds, my mind. They got me instead of metformin for diabetes, which is what I was on. That was the only med I was on before the stroke. It was a metformin. I wasn't on anything for high blood pressure or anything. So when they come in, they do the blood thinners, high blood pressure meds, and instead of metformin, insulin shots. So they do what they call a sliding scale. And so that was going on. Then they got me into a wheelchair. Oh, so here's where I entertained them for the first time. So I kind of watch what they're doing. They got this canvas shell bag thing, and the nurse made a comment about it's a burrito bag. But anyway, so they they get you in this shell thing, and they have all these hooks and stuff, and they hook you up, and then they hoist you up out of the bed. It's called a Hoyer lift. So as soon as they hoisted me up and started moving out over the wheelchair, I just did a little entertainment thing of wee, and I was imitating there used to be a Geico commercial on television where it had a little piggy going wee.
Wait, wait, wait!
So that was my entertainment session there for them. So, but anyway, they got me in a wheelchair, took me down to the cafeteria, and from there, yeah, parked me at a table. One of the cafeteria staff came over, said hi, introduced himself. They put a big boy bib on me, and because I had a name tag on me that said choking hazard, and they got these different badges and colors and stuff they have that let the staff know the status of individual patients. So, okay, so they put the big boy bib on me, which I didn't understand at first. And but the purpose was, because a lot of patients have chewing problems, issues, eating with the stroke. So, aside from choking, you may, other stuff, drooling and stuff. So, but hey, I'm there eating, and then a woman walks over and introduces, says, "Hey, I'm Lynn. I'm a speech therapist. I'm over here. I'm here to watch you eat." So I was like, "Oh." So there we had it. Speech therapy was already starting during breakfast. And so that was so she sat down with me, observing, explained that she's observing and why, because people can choke, different things. So I was doing okay there initially. I did notice my left side, there was issues. There was numbness there where, so I had a little, left side of my, a little bit there. So these are little things that are going on. So anyways, after breakfast, she wheeled me up to the second floor to the speech room up there. And so one of the first things about speech, a lot of people have misconceptions. Maybe not a lot of people, but we think that speech is all about, okay, how to talk. And that is a big part of it. It's like, okay, seeing how you're talking, verbalizing, control, but it's also cognitive because the strokes can affect the cognitive issues in our brains. So that's the other part of speech therapy was cognitive. Uh, you know, d- um, During these sessions, they might have you do a puzzle, they might have you read a little story, look at pictures, and then remember what was in the picture, like 5 objects in the picture. These are things like brain exercises, counting money, simple thing. Okay, you got 5 dimes and 3 nickels. How much is that? Um, so again, it's part of the cognitive skills, but also the speech skills. So how your speech is working. So that was the speech therapy, and that takes they got broken down to an hour. each of the sessions. So the first one, of course, was a speech, and then they have occupational and they got physical. So those are the three therapies. So the occupational therapy. So anyway, they took me back to my room. Then like an hour or so later, they came and got me for occupational therapy. So the short version of occupational therapy is it deals with basic functions, being able to get up out of your chair, get into bed, or get over onto the toilet, things like that. And for that, that was one of the first tools introduced was what they called slide board, to where the wheelchairs, you can raise the arm up and you scooch and you slide. So that's how you get into bed or get on tail and vice versa. Okay, so those are skills. The other thing that you're introduced to is what they call the gait belt. The gait belt, you wear that all the time when you're out of bed, and so those are two things. But that the occupational is the functioning, like okay, working with your hand to get you trying to function thing, doing things like that. It's basic functions. Whereas the physical therapy is more about the physical part, getting you standing, walking, that type of thing. So so eventually, from occupational therapy, they also introduced me to they call it a STEM machine. It's a little electrical machine. They put little electrodes on your different parts of your arm or different parts of your wrist. They stimulate and get your hand moving, where get your hand actually going like that, because you can't do that right now. You can't move your hand. And so things like that they work on in the occupational. And you go into physical therapy later in the day, you go to physical therapy session. Again, these are all the 1 hour sessions. They work on trying to get you up on your feet. Also, sitting up, sitting there, laying down, sitting up, things like that. They got they got the mats there, like similar, beds, mats, you know, getting back and forth into the chair onto the mats or some, like bed and things like that. But then that's all of the walking. They got parallel bars and they got another one of those ceiling hoist things. So they get you in a harness and then they hoist you up. So the first time they do that's pretty interesting. Might be a little um, shocking or frustrating or whatever because okay, they get you up, you're in the harness, they plant you on your feet, and that left leg don't want to do anything. I mean, you're trying, so you get it to move a little bit. So there's still, depending on your situation, you may or may not have be able to do some movement, or I call flinging, fling that arm or fling that leg, or whatever the case is. But so anyway, so that's the beginning. That's how to get you started. Um, Eventually, they might try a brace on your lower leg, because a lot of stroke victims, the foot has a tendency to twist inward, so the brace will help. The same thing with the arm. You might notice your hand trying to twist inward, so there'll be and they introduce you to a sling that you have control of your arm, so your arm ain't just like whoops flying all over the place. So there's that part. Um, So anyway, that's day one, all right. And then of course, you might have family visiting, things like that. But one of the things I was just as the days went by is being super tired and sleep, sleep, sleep. That's what you want to do. Even speech therapy might be on some days might be more tiring than the physical stuff because you're working your brain. You're there in there for an hour and you're working your brain, and so that's going on. But one of the other things, staying busy is important. I think it was the second or third morning in the hospital there. Dr. Thorley came in and I was on my laptop. And he asked what I was doing. I said, well, I'm kind of doing working. Because one of the things is I had a side job. I teach business courses or online college. And so they were going to let me off, but I said, well, and it kept my brain busy because in my mind, I told the doctor I don't have an off switch, so and he thought it was very good and he highly recommended it. That's keeping your brain busy, whether it be work stuff or whatever, but that's an important part of recovery, getting everything working. That's what I was doing. One of the things I did learn was okay, I can't use my left hand now to type. All right, so that was very time consuming. So I discovered a text to speech app in Microsoft Word. And so I started playing with that. And so I did two things. One, okay, I was able to get quicker feedback to students on assignments and so forth, but also it made me aware of my verbalization problems I was having that you may not be aware of. And so it's a very good tool to help you for speech. You know, if you say a sentence or a paragraph, and then you read it back and you find out, well, it's about 50% right there to 50% isn't right. And so, because I used to do videos every week for my students, stuff like that. So this was a good tool for me using that text to speech software. Okay, so got that. Staying busy. Your new ride. Now you're getting a wheelchair. I'm assuming you're in a wheelchair. And so I'm, there for 3 weeks. We're in the wheelchair. That's kind of a continuous thing. Even when I left rehab hospital, I was still in a wheelchair. So wasn't out of a wheelchair. But you'll get your new wheelchair. So that was, I called a new ride. But anyway, you got that. One of the other things, that I became aware, and this is kind of more of a personal thing, but so it was like first few nights there, and I talk about me and my wife, we would talk every night, and she visited the day, but we're on the phone one night, and I had this epiphany, and it was kind of an overwhelming emotional moment, I would say, where I realized suddenly that even though I had a stroke, and yeah, that's a pretty bad thing, but it also impacted the family. And having that awareness that, hey, the family is impacted by what happens to you is important. I think that's important because I would see this later when I was out in outpatient therapy months later, where there was a couple of patients who had no regard for what their situation was doing to their family. And so that's why I just bring this up is, be aware that a what happened to you also impacted them. So listen to your spouse or your partner, listen to your family, and don't let them be angry at you because you don't listen to them, or you don't understand. You're not understanding what they're going through too. All right. Now another thing, uh, when I was in the so another thing, in the book, everything I'm talking about is in the book, and I kind of following along is what I have inside the book and in the audiobook. So one section I have in here is called I Quit. It's on page 48 in the book, the title of the section is I Quit. And now I didn't quit, but so what the whole section's about is I was in the gym, in the therapy gym, okay? And you got bunch of us in there. And I seen a woman leaving. She walked out the door and it looked just like somebody I knew. I mean, it could have been their twin. So her name was Mary Jo. And so that night I got in touch with Mary Jo. I said, hey, I saw somebody look just like you at the therapy gym today, here at Mercy Rehab. And she said, well, yeah, my sister's there. I was visiting my sister. I was like, wow, okay. So her sister had a stroke and she was there too. So the next day in the cafeteria, I seen her. And so we talked. And then she shared with me a concern she had for her sister because her sister was not handling the situation well. Now, she'd had the stroke like 2 weeks earlier, and she's in the rehab hospital, so she's able to do like the physical requirements, and things like that. She wasn't eating much, but she just wasn't emotionally handling it very well, and which is understandable. I mean, I'm not saying, oh, you got to be all 100%, enthusiastic or anything, but it was a concern she had that her sister was not, handling it very well. And as I saw her over the next couple of weeks, I was there for 3 weeks. Was just pretty much the same, that concern, and you could tell about when I'd see her in the cafeteria, you could see it on her face, and even attempts to interact. I mean, she would interact, but it just wasn't there. She, you know, just didn't want to. She just didn't participate. I don't know what to say or call it, but it was a concern that Mary Jo had, and so the longer story kind of shortened up is, her sister ended up getting discharged from the rehab hospital and moved herself to a assisted living facility. where she just basically let them take care of her, but she did not do any of her, recommended physical therapy things she was supposed to be doing. She basically became a non-participant in what was going on with her own life. And unfortunately, she passed away like within about 9 months. And and because she quit. That's her what her sister's feelings was. She gave up. And that's why it's so important to have this positive attitude. Even though, hey, something devastating's happened to us, but you gotta have the positive attitude. Uh Over the months when I was in rehab hospital, everyone we talked to, we talk to each other. If you when you go there, you'll be talking to each other, different things, sharing experiences and learning from each other's experiences. But the same common thing everyone had was attitude. The attitude is the whole thing, more so than the physical limitations. Attitude. And so that's where, you got to devise a positive attitude. But anyway, rehab hospital. Let me get back here. So 3 weeks in the rehab hospital, one of the positives there was visitors. I have my grandkids. I call them grandmen. At the time, we had the two grandmen. Now we have a granddaughter too. But at the time we had so they would visit. So that was nice. That it was nice
I'm
to
on the
have
way.
visitors, and there was no real
Papa, I got it. Papa. Oh, Dad. No, go around. Dad, go around.
visitors was good, and so might show some little videos or pictures in here too about the visiting hours. But anyway, so visitors are good. They're a good distraction. And so I would encourage that too. And staying busy, keeping the brain busy. So so 3 weeks goes by and we're getting ready to get discharged from the rehab hospital. So that's what's coming up next. And one of the things was getting ready for going home because so in my case, I'm hospital bed, wheelchair bound. All right, so that was one of the things they came and talked to us about and talked to Debbie, and Debbie did a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, getting a hospital bed delivered. They gave me my wheelchair to go home with, a bedside commode because one of the issues you have you can't just get up and walk. Now, while I was at the rehab hospital, there was a couple occasions, you know, I'd call a nurse or something because I need a bathroom break, and they might run a little late, and they apologize. Say, yeah, Johnny down the hallway or Jane decided to get up out of bed by themselves and fell. And you can't do that. You may want to do it, but it happens. People, even when I was in outpatient therapy in the future, we would hear stories about so and so at home fell, because they were doing something they're not supposed to do. And I know it's a natural inclination to want to do stuff on your own, but some things you just can't do, not yet. So again, so you restrict it, and these are just things you cannot do. But anyway, so getting ready to go home, they usually do it like they call it graduation, to get you a T-shirt and stuff like that, get you like your stuff to take home with you. You got the slide board, your gate belt. And then, of course, we ordered a hospital bed for home. You order the bedside commode because you can't get up and go to the bathroom. And, it'll individual, everybody's different. So we'll have to see how long that goes there. So anyway, so going home part, that'll be next. But, for the most part, that's a big step, getting to go home. And I will cover that in the next part. But for now, I will leave it at this, and I will just tell you to stay positive, positive, positive. Don't give up, don't quit. Keep a positive attitude. All right.